Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, we're dipping our toes back into the how to win at RPG waters. And I gotta warn you guys, if you're driving the car, pull over, buckle up, strap in, because this one is gonna be hard for a lot of you guys to hear. And it's kind of strange that it's so hard for you to hear, but there's something your game is missing. And one of the suites of rules in this book can be dropped whole cloth into any version of this game you care to play. All of the non-D&D games that fall under the OSR umbrella, every single edition of the game could use a healthy dose of the reality presented by Gary Gygax right here on page number 84. It's not 84, it's 86. Gaining experience levels, almost universal within any game under the D&D umbrella, and almost universally ignored. You see the text in all caps? That means that a boomer wrote it. But unlike most boomers who just capitalize random words in their Twitter posts, Gygax made sure to capitalize key ideas. Upward progress is never automatic. Just because Neil Nimblefingers, Rogue of the Thieves Guild, has managed to acquire 1,251 experience points does not mean that she suddenly becomes Nell Nimblefingers the Footpad. The gaining of sufficient experience points is necessary, but the actual award is a matter for you, the DM, to decide. What? Wait, hold on now. This is where it gets really weird. Because a lot of the guys who think of themselves as the god of the campaign, they balk at this part. And it's because this part is where you have to sit down and you have to deliberately judge how well a player is playing the game. Now, this happens in every single game. Every single game that we play, well, I shouldn't say that. It's not universally true, but in most role-playing games, the DM or the game master is given some authority to provide bonuses to players who are playing exceptionally well. However, in this case, and we've all seen this before in D&D games where the DM says, wow, that was a really funny line, bonus of 25 experience points. Hey, there is your reward for good playing. Now, one of the things to be aware of is that one of the things we advocate for here at the channel is playing the game and not playing the DM. There's a game within the game, we've talked about this before, a game beneath the game, where you try to manipulate the DM into giving you the trophy. That's not how we do things, right? We strip the DM of his lofty heights and we make him just another player who is using the same rules as the characters. But here's where things get a little funky, because the DM has to consider that, because the DM has to, and stick with me here, because a few paragraphs down, you're going to see why this is so important to use this rule suite as is, and not just your loosey-goosey, oh, whatever, bro, I just figured you, met a milestone, so free level for you, right? There is a mindset that says, that some people think that rules are limiting. They're actually not, right? This is like a great artist who understands that the rules are there for very good reason, and your creativity within those rules, within the boundaries, in a lot of ways, it actually adds to your creativity. Suddenly you have metrics and criteria you have to meet, and you have to be creative in order to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish within those boundaries, right? And this is one of those cases. So let's talk about how you judge, and then we'll look at the results of how this judging takes place. And what we're looking at here is a solid system of constraints that provides real, actionable metrics that everyone at the table can understand and agree on. So instead of shooting at a moving target, how does the DM feel today? Is he in the mood to laugh? Will jokes get me the bonus? Is he in a bad mood and I just need to try to cheer him up? Or is he feeling kind of sad? And if I commiserate with him about the fact that his wife's boyfriend broke up with her, if I have to commiserate with him on that, that's a whole different kind of game. You might enjoy that game, but we're here to play D&D. And so that's where having these tightly written and tightly constrained metrics that we all understand and agree on comes in very handy. And the way this works, so you're not actually judging the player based on the player's personality. You're judging the play during the course of the game, right? Did the character perform in the character of his or her class? In other words, did the character fulfill his or her role? That's a role-playing game, right? Every character in the party has a job to fill. And we know what that job is because that's class. You chose to play a cleric. If undead showed up and you decided to sit this one out, you decided that as a cleric, your best option was swinging a mace instead of turning undead, you did not fulfill your role. If your actions were not in keeping with your professed alignment, that's the second one. So there's really two metrics. Did you do your job and did you support the team? Remember that alignment is aligning yourself within the context of AD&D, alignment means aligning yourself with the cosmic forces. If you have declared yourself to be on team lawful good and you did not behave and your behavior does not align with that professed goal, then you didn't fulfill your role on the team. So there's two teams, the party and your alignment team. Did you fulfill your role? Did you do your job? Right? And Gygax here, just a couple paragraphs down, let's see how low we can get here. He calls this out specifically. Excuse me, we're just kind of sitting here looking over the shoulder, right? He says, look, what you're going to do is you're going to rule whether they're excellent, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent, superior, fair performance, right? More harm, more normal than deviation, and P, poor showing. So if you're a thief and you spent the entire session running up to frontline combat, you didn't sneak around in shadows, you didn't backstab anybody, there were some loose coins laying around and you didn't steal them, you're not a thief. You're not doing thiefy things. Now, this might seem a little harsh to you. Well, but my character, I'm trying to get into the heart and play the role of my character. No. This is not the way role is. It's not a role in a play, okay? Don't listen to the junior high drama kids. They're engaged in an entirely different hobby than you are when you're playing D&D, which is a game designed for playing roles. Your role as a thief, you better do some thieving. And here, we even say, clerics who refuse to help and heal or do not remain faithful to their deity, fighters who hang back, right? This is it, man. These are all clear examples of a poor rating. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to award experience points normally. Hey, the rules are there for experience points, right? 1 gold, 1 XP. You kill a goblin, it's like 5 XP, right? All I did was step down a couple of paragraphs. Award experience points normally for each session. Just make a note, right? You can even have the players do this. Hey, just mark a note on your sheet that this session you got an E, F, S, or P. When your total experience points indicates eligibility for an advancement in level, right? Now we get to the point where you say, hey, I've got my 1250 first experience point. Bing! I get to roll another die for my hit dice. I get additional bonus in my thief. Gets additional bonuses on his thief skills of, 2 to 4 percentage points, whatever it is. Whoa, tap the brakes there, fella. Because we've got to finish this process here where we use that assessment. We had equal weight during each separate adventure, right? So we're just going to take the average score. We've got these 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s. We're on 3 sessions. We got an average score of whatever, call it 1.8, okay? When it's time, regardless of how many or few experience points are gained in each, the resulting total is divided by the number of entries to come up with some number 1 to 4, right? So you get your average, and here's the key. That average indicates the number of weeks the character must spend in study and or training before he or she actually gains the benefit of the new level. What? That's crazy, right? No, it's not. It's really not. It's really not. Like, you've done the work, but now it's time to sit down and think about what you've done. It's time to put in some actual training. It's time to find somebody that knows more than you do. Hey, you're a first level fighter. You're going to need to find a second or third level guy who knows a few tricks that he can teach you. And you're going to have to train under him, right? Be certain that all decimals are attained, right? Every 0.145, God bless Gygax. He's down to the 3rd significant figure. What a total Chad. I mean, just, intellectually, man, you got to have some firepower to follow. I say that. You got to have some firepower to invent this, but it's not hard. If you know how to take an average, you just take the average. And then that tells you, how many weeks you must spend to gain the level, right? So if you're averaging excellent play, it's only going to take 1 week of training. But maybe you had some deviations, but, not really significant. But maybe you were not doing thiefy stuff. And if you stop and think for a moment, well, this seems awfully gamey. No, it's really not. This is a reflection of the real world and trying to model the real world. Because if you're a violinist that never picks up a violin, you're not getting the experience, right? And so what happens is if you're not doing the thiefy things, it's going to take you a lot longer, a lot more practice off screen in downtime, as we call it. Oh, one-to-one time rears its ugly head. When you level, you're going to have to sit out a full month of the game because your character, your thief character, has got to spend a month. What's great about this is it incentivizes players to stick to their lane. And oddly enough, this rule that provides an easily understood and easily enforceable way of guaranteeing that characters stay in their lane would, if implemented in more modern rule sets, provide for an enhancement to the spotlight style of play, which we don't like here at the Joy of Wargaming. We think that's baby poopy talk. But let's move on, shall we? Right now, not only must game time be spent by the character, but treasure will have to be spent as well, right? So, let me tie a little bow on the downtime. So every time you go up a level, you're gonna have to sit out 1 to 4 weeks. Smart play means less sitting out and more time gaining experience points. But you also have to spend treasure. The amount of gold pieces equivalent is found by using this: the level of the character times 1,500, and that's the weekly cost. Weekly cost. Holy free holies. Let's think about this a second. If my character is a second level thief, he is automatically going to have to spend 3,000 gold per week on training. Now you have an incentive to go out and stack them bills. What happens here, and by incorporating this rule into your game, what happens is suddenly you are after the big payouts. It's not enough to just go pick a few pockets in a tavern somewhere. It's not enough to just go beat up a few kobolds, right? Stuff a few goblins in a locker. What you are really looking for is the fat loot, because you are going to have to spend 3,000 gold weekly. Weekly! That's crazy! So not only is this incentivizing you in terms of time, it's also incentivizing you in terms of gold. If you are doing everything according to your role, 1 week, 1,500 gold per level. If you are slacking off and not pulling your weight, if you are a designated hitter that trots out to the mound to be a closer, if you're a cleanup batter who keeps striking out, or maybe you're a relief pitcher who keeps giving up runs in those critical 6th, 7th, and 8th innings, you got an ERA of 12, you're not doing your job. You need to practice hard. That's going to cost you money. And he even provides a little bit of, the level is computed at the current, not the additional level. But look at that incentive, not just to, in a time perspective, so that your character can get back in the game as fast as possible. But this is what's interesting, is that this is one of those positive feedback loops. If you need to have that 1,500 gold pieces in order to level up, like we said, remember, thieves take 1,250 to go up to the next level. So you're going to hit 1,250 gold pieces, and you're going to have 1,250 experience points. But maybe you got all those experience points just from gold. You still need another 250 gold in order to pay off the local crime boss to be able to do some training in his crime dojo, right? You got the experience points, but you don't get your extra hit die until you find another 250 gold. So you're not going to be looking around for the small cut. You're looking for the big payoff. You're willing to take greater risks. And isn't that funny? Taking greater risks will lead to greater adventures. The model here is not, what's the game? What's the game that Warhammer? Zweihander stole everything from. Oh yeah, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. There you're pinching pennies and you're squeaking by. This game is meant for big payouts, big rewards. You're going to find huge chests of gold and they're just going to flow through your fingers. This right here is a solution to the Monty Hall campaign. I mean, it's one of them, right? One of the things that Gygax provides in this book is a lot of advice that is universal. Even if you don't play AD&D, you should be reading this book, and you should be reading all of his explanations, which are very clear, because this is one of those sections that he does that, where he talks about that. And in other sections, he says, look, if your characters have way too much gold, if they're going in and they're pulling off some really big heists, well, first of all, that's awesome. If your characters are pulling off huge heists, they're doing something right. That's hilarious. That's good gaming. We like that. If they're walking around with fat stacks of loot, this is one of the ways to drain that. Okay, so great positive feedback. Take bigger risks, get bigger loot, spend more money to get to take bigger risks, right? So let's keep going in this section here. We'll just kind of breeze on through it. As we mentioned earlier, initial study and/or training must be conducted under the tutelage of a character of the same class and profession, i.e. a fighter must train under a fighter, a paladin under a paladin. Exception: a character with a performance score under 2 need not be tutored. Remember, 1 is really good. If you are doing everything by the book in the game, then you don't need a tutor, right? But it's going to take you twice as long. Okay, so the if you're at 1.5 for your average score, it's gonna take you 3 weeks. But that's okay because you don't need that tutor, right? And particularly if you're like the only druid in the grove, then that can be necessary. This also, all right, note that, and here we go. This is the next part. Name level characters are fairly rare, and it's going to be unusual that a wizard will help out another wizard, let's say. Remember, most of these you reach name level at anywhere from 8th to 10th level usually. Druids is, 12, right? But fighters, I think there's like 8th. But because there are fewer of these guys walking around, you no longer have to find one of those guys. You have now reached basically the pinnacle of your career. And now it's just a question of getting better at being what you are. And then the training goes bye-bye. But you still have to spend the time, and you still have to spend the money. Because now that you are a lord, remember, this intersects with other rules in the game, other rules that generally get ignored. If you're a fighter and you've become a lord, you have a whole bunch of followers. And you've been paying them off, right? You get all of these captains and sergeants and soldiers, and you've built a castle, and now you got to spend extra money to, call it a celebration. This is a way to kind of spread your wealth around and to secure your political point, your political position. Because now you've moved away from killing small creatures in dank holes for a few pennies, and now you are in the domain game. You have arrived in Adventure Conqueror King. You have arrived in the Conqueror or perhaps the King phase of your career, and you're not training. But look, for example, a cleric, hey, I want to serve my god. I am going to buy better investments. I've already, built a chapel and maybe a full-blown temple, right? But I'm gonna need to start spreading money around and, helping out the poor and, of course, helping out the politically connected to protect my position within society and protect my church's position, right? Bards, he goes into something a little bit special, but we'll slide down. All training study is recorded in game time. Yeah, the period must, as it says, blah, blah, blah. However, if there's a hiatus in the course of training study, in other words, I got to train for 3 weeks. Well, I'll train for a week, and then I'll go on an adventure, and then I'll get wounded and have to spend a week healing, and I'm going to pay the other 2 weeks. No. You're out for that long for training, right? And then down here, we have one last bit of bold. So what happens in this next big bold? Hey, this is important. Sit up and take notice. Pay attention, guys. What happens if I'm that thief and I have scored my 1,251 experience points, and let me flip open to, or I'll just pick one at random here. Druids. So I've scored my 2,000 points, and I'm ready to go up to level 2, but I don't have time because I'm stuck on a long wilderness adventure. I continue to contribute. Once a character reaches a point at which they're equal to or greater than the minimum necessary to move upwards, no further experience points can be gained until the character actually gains the new level. What? What does this mean? For druids, they level up at 2,000 and then again at 4,000 experience points. If you're a level 1 druid and you gain 2,001 experience points, you don't have that bing moment where you get your new hit die. You have to go through the training montage. You're the best around before you get that hit die. Not only that, but if you don't have time or you are too busy mucking around, with human sacrifices and whatnot, read the description on druids and what they have to do to maintain their powers, if that sounds nonsensical to you. If you haven't taken the time to train, once you get equal to or greater than the minimum necessary to move upwards, in other words, at 4,000 experience points, You can no longer gain additional experience points until you take the time to train. And the way I've seen this implemented is once this druid trains and becomes level 2, now he can go out, knife an urchin, a street urchin in the back, gain that last experience point, and now he's at 4,002. He can begin the process of leveling up once more. However, if his means of gaining that experience point are not killing, Captain Planet style villains, and rather are killing urchins in the street, he's probably going to rate a poor showing and have to spend 4 weeks training. But I want to circle back to one last thing that we kind of glossed over, and that is down here in the cost. Remember when I said you got to spend the dough? It's not necessarily true. There is another option, and that other option right here leads to a more rich and robust gaming experience. A tutor might accept some combination of gold and service for his tutelage at the DM's, and here, if I was writing the book type, I would put a little caret, and I would say DM's or patron players option. This is a way to segue from single party to patron play. If your fighter needs a tutor and doesn't have the dough, he can turn to one of the player patrons who is a fighter, or even one who has a fighter in his employ. Remember, you've given one of the other players the ability to, what do we say? So one of the other players is the head of the local Thieves Guild. And the Thieves Guild employs thugs, hired muscle. And one of the guys running that hired muscle is a third level fighter. Well, my first level fighter can go to the player and say, hey, of that patron, and say, hey, Joe, I wonder if the Thieves Guild could spare some training for me. In which case the patron player says, well, yeah, we'd be happy to in exchange for a favor later. You only got 500? No problem. Remember, this is a criminal syndicate. We'd be happy to kind of float you for the other 1,000. But, we're going to call that chip in later. And now you're getting into patron play. You're bridging the gap, and you are adding new threads to the tapestry of your campaign. If you embrace this kind of judgment, and remember, we all judge. That's kind of the point, right? We are judging whether you level up or not. It's just, in this case, we have a clear-cut example, clear-cut rules to follow. This has a positive feedback cycle on your campaign. First of all, it forces the one-to-one time, right? It reinforces that one-to-one time, providing real-world consequences for poor play at the table. Second of all, it incentivizes patron play. It incentivizes looking at the world outside of your character, and it forces you to slow down, which winds up creating the space necessary to have a more faction-based campaign. All right. And here's the great part. You don't even, as the player, you don't even need to go to that patron player, to the DM and say, hey, DM, can you ask the patron player? Just go right to the player. Hey, Joe, can I owe you one in exchange for the trade? Yeah, do it. And then you sit down next to the DM and say, yeah, Joe's going to do it for me. And Joe says, yeah, I said I'd do it for him. But you can do that in downtime, like away from the table. And you're playing this campaign away from the table, and you're able to solve in-game problems out of the game because you have embraced not just this one little section of the Dungeon Master's Guide, but you have embraced this book in its totality, and you have learned how to create a much more elite level game. That section on leveling up, on grading your players, is one of the winning secrets. And the great part is, it's not just limited to AD&D. You can use this at any level of the game. Elite level, normie level, basic level. Slow things down. Give yourself space to play the game. Your players will thank you for it. And that is how you win at RPGs. Until next time, I'm praying for you.